Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia. I'm your host, Tommy McIntyre Jr. Well, the Philadelphia Eagles lost another tough one against the Green Bay Packers this past weekend, and the Philadelphia Flyers are still doing pretty well, around 500. We'll be talking all that and more after this.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hello and welcome back. Well, it was another tough week for the Philadelphia Eagles, and honestly, I got a great panel to talk about this. Josh Abrams, thank you so much for coming on, as well as Kyle McIntosh. I really appreciate you to talk about these tough times in Philadelphia. As we all know, it's Philadelphia sports. It's diehard fans, right? I mean, and unfortunately, we've been dying lately. But let's get right into it. Let's get the recap on the graphic right now and kind of just look at what went down in this game. Started out pretty well for the Eagles. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, not well in terms of the Green Bay Packers scored on the first drive after we deferred on the coin toss, but they came back. Carson Wentz had a solid drive, found a DGB, who we'll talk about in a little bit. It seemed like it was going to be a good game for him. He found him like 4 times in that first drive, and Carson Wentz wound up running in the end zone for the score to tie the game up. After that, they just never got back on the right track, really didn't seem. They never had that way of really playing, that, at least the offense-wise. The defense didn't have it all game. 27-13 was the Green Bay's victory. But let's start with you, Josh. Talk a little bit about what you think just wasn't going right. I mean, I think people were complaining about the referees, but, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's on us. I mean, our defense just wasn't playing well.
You're exactly right. It is on us. We weren't playing very disciplined on defense, and we can blame the refs all we want. But when it comes down to it, they decide the cause of the game, but they also don't decide the outcome of the game, because that's up to the players. And clearly we're not, as I said before, we're not playing disciplined. We're not playing efficient on defense or offense. It was a bright spot that Carson Wentz did rush in that touchdown. But after that first drive where we scored, Caleb Sturgis had the rest of our offense. And against a struggling Packers secondary that has a couple injuries, especially at the cornerback position, we need to take advantage of that. And I know that we don't have great wide receivers, as Jordan Matthews is our best wide receiver, but we have to take advantage of something with a struggling team like the Packers.
Yeah, we have a graphic of talking a little bit about Carson Wentz, the QBs in this one. Aaron Rodgers, Kyle, just had a great game. 30 for 39, 313 yards, 2 TDs. I mean, he was pinpoint accurate throughout this game and made our defense just look terrible. So what did you think of as his play, especially because early on in the season he hasn't been doing too well. He's actually had a career low season so far.
Yeah, I got to say that we cannot give this quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, that much time on third down. It was sick watching the receivers be able to create open space, and the defensive linemen, our defensive linemen, they weren't getting through that offensive line. They just gave him all the time in the world in the pocket, and you can't do that against a quarterback of that caliber. He just completely tore us to shreds. And 10 for 14 on third down, I mean, come on. Like, all of these wide open receivers on third down, that's what got us. The refs could not call us the entire game. But we took ourselves out of that game because we didn't play good defense. Our defense, to be completely frank, was trash.
Ooh, trash. Taking out the garbage, Josh. Now talk about the cornerbacks for the Eagles, because honestly, they just weren't there either. They could not cover the receivers. I mean, there was a nice throw on the sideline midway through the game. Rodgers just threw it. Beautiful pass down for I forget the yardage on the pass, but it was a pass downfield, which eventually led to a score for them. And it wasn't even close. They weren't even covering them correctly. They were off them. They got to either play press coverage, or you're playing 10 yards. You're giving them way too much time to find to get open, honestly. And they're way better receivers than the Eagles. So just talk a little bit about the defense as well and the cornerback situation.
Well, that play that you just mentioned was basically the icing on the cake of the struggles of our cornerbacks. And I understand Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, and even Jared Cook. They're, probably better receivers than what we have. But, we've got to do better in the coverage and all that kind of stuff. And, when Aaron Rodgers gets, even 2 seconds time, he can sling it down the field to arguably, a top 10 receiver in Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams, who's starting to come up as a top 25 receiver. So when you give Rodgers the time and the weapons with our struggling secondary and just maybe our struggling defense in general, that's in for some trouble.
And now another receiver we have, we're talking about receivers for the Eagles, Dorius Green-Beckham, who we talked about earlier. He had 6 receptions for 82 yards in this game, but 4 of those receptions came on that first drive I mentioned, and honestly kind of went away. Didn't seem like they could find him anymore. Now, Kyle, did you think the offensive line just wasn't there? We've seen some struggles from them lately, and Carson's just not getting enough time in the pocket to find these guys? Are the receivers continuing not to get it open? It seemed like we didn't have too many drop passes this week, but it was more like they just were not getting open for Carson to find them. And let's be honest, Carson has been overthrowing them as well. He's been kind of sliding off since the early part of the season.
I think the biggest part has to be the coaching, actually. I don't think we're having creative enough plays and using Dorial Green-Beckham to his strengths. Yeah, he looked great that first drive, and I thought for a second, like, oh, maybe he can actually, get a touchdown this game, actually use him properly. But after that first drive, we just went away from it. And I think a part of it's just Doug Peterson being inexperienced as a head coach and making the call to go away from that game plan. If he just sticks to what works, you'll find more success. You'll be able to create those open looks and get our receivers open. But then again, our receivers do have to fight for that. They can't just run their routes. They have to, shake them up a little bit. The best receivers are the ones who create that open space. They're not given anything. And once we have receivers that can start doing that, Carson Wentz will start being able to throw those deep balls down the field, because we can't do that if nobody's going to fight for the ball, if nobody's going to, if they're just going to set him up for interceptions. He can't trust himself. He can't believe in his arm going downfield if our receivers aren't giving him that option.
It seems like we've been continuing to have these plays that we're just throwing a lot of these like backfield throws, not really going for the first down marker at all, and we're just getting the defense sees it right away. And I don't know if Carson's not seeing it. I don't know if the coaches aren't seeing. I mean, they're like being ignorant in terms of the film. You cannot be watching film like this and not seeing it, but they continue to do it every week. And so, Josh, just speak a little bit of that as well, and just why it doesn't seem like we're evolving, kind of as a team, as an offense. I mean, a coach is a rookie. We have a rookie quarterback. But there doesn't seem any real acknowledgement, even when they talk to the media, about what the actual problems are.
It seems like Doug Peterson, with his inexperience, isn't really able to motivate his team. And that's obviously a huge problem, because we are now in week 13 of the getting older season, and it just seems like there hasn't been, as you said, any improvement. And we're really getting down to crunch time right now, even though our playoff hopes are kind of shattered. And you want to finish off the season strong. And if no improvements are made, in the mental department, starting with the coaching staff, specifically Doug Peterson, I don't see any hope of seeing any improvement with our play calling.
Now let's stick, Doug, one more. You have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think one thing that we can really start doing, especially when the season is where it is right now, is just take more risks. I know we've had no success on the deep ball, but just show them that he's not scared of it. Because right now it looks like he's scared of throwing those interceptions, and we're already throwing interceptions either way. He started the season off having none, and now he has 8. And it's almost to the amount of he has touchdowns. He has 11 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So instead of playing scared, play riskily, throw everything down the field, and just play some football out there,
And do you think, what is Doug Peterson's timetable? Let's be honest. The division's, it's gone. The Cowboys are running away with their 10-1 this season. They're going to win the division. At least in terms of the Eagles, I have no chance to catch them. Maybe if they just fall off the earth, maybe someone could catch up to them, but odds are no. So wild card is technically still in play, but the way the Eagles have been playing, that seems unreasonable at this point. So stick with you, Kyle. Just kind of talk about what is Doug Peterson's? Is he on a hot seat? Like if he goes out and they lay another egg this week, we're going to talk about the Bengals. what happens? What if they continue to do this? I mean, does the pressure come where Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman have to decide, like, look, we have to look at this? What do you think?
I definitely think that they learned a really good lesson of not doing things like on a whim like that. They gave Chip Kelly all that power after only 3 seasons. I think they're going to slow down, give Doug Peterson a chance because, like everybody knows, we don't have the weapons around Carson Wentz that we need to have him successful. I think he needs to start developing those weapons, though, because if he doesn't do anything, we got Paul Turner, we got Bryce Treggs. Get him out there. Just get him out there, get him exposure. Like we said, I don't even think we're going to be getting to wild card, to be completely honest with you. The Redskins, the Giants, and Cowboys all look really good. I mean, we've looked good in flashes as well, but just take this time, just get some players some reps. Make those receivers our receivers of the future if we're not going to pick up anybody in the offseason like Alshon Jeffrey or something like that. So we got 2 good guys. We just need to work on
and you mentioned the standings. We actually have a graphic of that, so maybe we get that up just to kind of put where the Eagles are. And look, we're dead last in the division. I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, I don't know if we thought we were going to be that good, but I mean, I don't know if we predicted in the early season. Obviously, the Cowboys we never expected to be this good with 2 rookies, really as the MVP candidates of the year, really in the NFC and really the entire league. But let's get into the picks of the week. I mean, this is another critical game. We're playing a Bengals team that has struggled. I mean, and they have a quarterback, Andy Dalton, who's been playing well of late. But we're going to have to – we'll start with you, Josh. You have Carson Wentz, so we've been talking about him. And Kyle, you have Carson Wentz as well. Different scores. We have 25-17 Eagles. Why do you think we can go on the road? We've been struggling this season. Why do you think we can get the W?
I think that this is the game where we can finally get out of our road losing slump and beat a Bengals team that is without A.J. Green, their top receiver, and Giovanni Bernard, who's more than a solid backup to Jeremy Hill. In terms of the defense, I think we're going to pressure Andy Dalton really well. That front 4, I think, is going to get past the offensive line, and I could see the defense sacking Andy Dalton a lot. So if we can pressure Andy Dalton and get some kind of turnover, then I think we have a shot at winning this game.
Now, Kyle, you feel the same way. You have an even better score for the Eagles in this favor. Why do you think they can finally get a nice win this week?
I think the Bengals have let up a lot of sacks, about 32 sacks on the season so far. And I think for a sack-hungry defense like ours, like Fletcher Cox is just going to tear it up. He's going to abuse those guys. And I think Carson Wentz is going to be the MVP because he needs to play harder. Nelson Aguilar talks about how he wants to improve. I think if he comes back out there, he's going to make Carson Wentz the MVP. He's going to try to get open. He's going to work harder. He's going to try to have some fun out there like he talked about. I think Carson Wentz is going to get some touchdowns, prove that he's the quarterback to himself and to the fans who are starting to doubt him a little bit because of his declining in play. But I definitely think that we're going to come away with this one from a win.
And I have the Eagles as well in this game. I just feel like we're kind of against a wall at this point. I mean, Packers game, I mean, let's be honest, I thought they had a good shot of winning this game, and they laid an egg. They just did not come to play. I mean, Monday night game, ESPN, Monday Night Football, and you just don't come to play in your home stadium. And but I think this is it. I think this is a wake-up call. I think it's the coaches, if they're not on a hot seat, they're on a hot seat technically in a kind of sense of just like, look, we got to get better. We got to play some. And when you mentioned again Aguilar, I'll end this with Kyle. Do you think is he going to recover from this kind of mental lapse he's going through, just trying to like think too much of catching the ball? What do you think, just to finish up?
I think he took that benching really hard. He even talked about how badly he wanted to play versus Green Bay, and that opportunity was taken from him. I think he really realized like he has to try harder. He has to make those catches. He has to get open. He has to just put more effort in practice and in the game overall. And I definitely think that he's going to come back. He looked great in college. I mean, we did pick him for a reason, and we just need that Nelson Aguilar back. Sure, we had a rough quarterback situation last season. Everybody's had trouble this season. I don't know if it's any fault of the wide receiver coaches, but just now's the time. He realized Carson needs a weapon. Let's see if they can link up and see if they can make some magic happen.
Let's hope for magicians to come to Cincinnati, right? I mean, that's what we're all praying for. But we'll be right back. I want to thank Kyle McIntosh for coming on to talk Eagles. Josh, you're going to stick around for Flyers, and Dana and Kevin Cook are going to be coming back for Flyers talk. So stick around after this. Oh, shit, you're in.
Hey, what's up? already had like 2 drinks.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, yeah, meet me outside my house in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll meet you at your house. Okay.
What's up, man? Come on, my God, you're so drunk. Just get in my car. Let's go.
Whoa, you're swerving.
I'm fine. You're the drunk one. I only had 2 cups. That's it.
I'm drunk. I thought you were drunk.
I'm not drunk. If I was drunk, I wouldn't be driving. It was just 2 beers. It's not gonna do anything.
LTV News, where the action never stops.
I love watching LTV News. I love watching LTV News every Sunday at 10:30. I love LTV News producer Dave Roberts.
Before I go to class on Monday mornings, I watch LTV News at 8 a.m.
I love watching Kirsten and Callie on LTV News.
Tuesdays at 10, we watch LTV News.
Hi, this is Eddie Dunn, host of LaSalle's favorite TV game show, Q&A. I'm here today to tell you to watch LaSalle TV. Though if you're seeing this commercial, that means you're already watching LaSalle TV. So I guess keep it up. You're doing an awesome job. I hope you like what you're seeing. Good job.
Hello and welcome back. Well, Philadelphia Flyers this time around, 11-10-3 so far this season. I want to introduce Dana Pecora as well as Kevin Cook to come on, as well as Josh, who's sticking around to talk some Flyers talk. But let's get right into it. Kevin, speak a little bit about where the team is right now so far in this season, what you've seen, what you liked, and yeah, just going to speak on that.
Well, so far they've basically been chugging along right at 500. They win one, they lose one, but they've been playing well even in the games that they lose. And the shame of it is how well their offense is playing, yet they continue to give up weak and soft goals. So it's kind of tough to see. And I think that they're definitely getting into way too many overtime games. I think that they've had to have played the most overtime games because they have 3 losses in overtime, and I mean, at least they're getting a point for them. But they do have a lot of games in which they're just playing too much.
Too long, you mean,
yeah.
20 minutes. Yeah, definitely not weighing well on the bodies. Dana, talk a little about the fact that, I mean, the defense is just not giving Mason especially just any help. I mean, like, he's giving up goals, but there's no one really there to help him out that much. Just speak a little about that, of like, how much do you blame defense, how much do you blame Mason? Where do you kind of weigh on that?
I kind of blame both. I think Mason has been I think the defense and Mason collectively have been really inconsistent for us. Although defense has played a little bit better, and Mason did have a really great game against Boston the other day, 45 saves I believe it was. So as long as we can continue that with Mason making those saves, and the defense needs to help him out. I mean, obviously not one person can make a team win, so it's collective. Quite obviously, so the defense definitely needs to stay the way they've been for the past 2 or 3 games, and I think we'd be on a good road.
Now, maybe some brighter news about the team outside of their defense. Let's go to the Flyers' stats to look kind of what they've done. I mean, offensively. I mean, you got Wayne Simmons, who's always been a guy that has been consistent for the Flyers since he's got here from Sacramento. As well, I mean, Giroux. I mean, the guy still puts up points. You know he's going to get assists. Not as many goals so far this season. But Josh, speak a little about the bright spots, at least, of their offense this season.
Well, as I said before in our earlier shows, it really, really helps that Giroux, Simmons, and Voracek, they're all leading the team, which is kind of expected. They're, like I said, Giroux has been on the team since we went to the finals, and Voracek and Simmons have really, really picked up the slack, specifically Voracek with that season last year. But Simmons is part of, I guess, in the lead on the team in points with 22, and he's among the NHL, the NHL lead there. And then Voracek and Giroux each have 20 points. Drew hasn't been, as you said, hasn't been scoring as much, but he does have 15 assists, and I think that's at least top 10 in the league. So with our leaders here, it really helps when trying to get the younger guys involved. And Konechny has 13 points as well, so he's really starting to get off to a good start to his career.
Now that's a good interlude into the young guys. Kevin, Konechny especially has shown us some good stuff so far this season. Speak about them and kind of what you've seen and the promising future hopefully these guys have for the team.
Yeah, and just like Josh was saying, the younger guys have kind of, especially on offense, they have been able to come in and not have too much pressure on themselves. And I think that's a big reason for why they're able to contribute to the team. But defensively, on the other hand, like we've seen Ghost struggle in what is now his sophomore season, and even we haven't seen Provorov play all that great in the NHL level, although it has been better than when it started. And just like Josh said, I really do think that it can be attributed to not having a great defensive-man that is a veteran in the back end. I mean, we have good scrappy players like Del Zotto and even Mark Straight, who's pretty good in his own right, but we don't have that man that can be on the ice for 2/3 of the game and won't be a weak link, and when he's out there that the defense is all right. And we really haven't seen the Flyers with a player like that since they lost Chris Pronger.
Now, Dana, is this something that Hextall will try to address in some capacity or another, maybe in terms of a trade or looking for something else? Do you think they're going to stay in this fold and kind of play what they got and see where it leads them?
I think that they've got a lot of young players. Provorov's young, and I think that a defense is probably the hardest thing to develop. As a young player, as a defenseman, that's probably the hardest position to develop into. So I think that they're probably just going to stay where they're at and try to hopefully just develop their players. I think that's the move to do, because you do have Ghost who had a great season last season. So, I mean, he has been struggling, but been playing a little bit better. Del Zotto, the same thing. He's been playing a little better. So I think that I think that they have the potential to develop.
Josh, going on to, I guess, piggybacking back to what we used to, we actually have goalies on here we can bring back up. We talked about it a little earlier. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, when you lose a guy at net, all you have left is Mason now. Where does this kind of hold us? Where does this kind of lead us for the rest of the season? I mean, we've talked about how the defense has struggled. Goaltenders, it may be an equal blame. So where do you think this team goes? I mean, it's still early on in the season.
Well, Mason right now has a goals against average of, I believe, just below 3. Neuwirth is going into his injury recovering with a goals against average of, I think, 3.5. So to have Mason in net is obviously huge. And as I said on the last show, we're going to need Mason to just hold the fort as long as he can. And even though our defense hasn't been helping him out as much as we would like to see them help him out, it's still huge that we have him in net, because we're really asking a lot from him with having our other goalie out, and they're not necessarily stars yet, but Neuwirth was a very, very solid alternative compared to the numbers. And I think if Mason keeps doing the same thing that he's been doing since in the last 7 games, I think he can be the starter for the rest of the season, unless if there's a setback, God forbid.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for Flyers talk, but let's get into Fast 5, talk a little bit more. But we are going to, in Fast 5, Dana, I'm going to ask you, Flyers got Ottawa. Will they win?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think if Mason plays and the defense plays as consistent as they had the past 2 or 3 games, they'll take the win.
All right. I like it. Fast and quick. This is Fast 5. All right, Kevin. Brett Brown has said now that when Ben Simmons comes back, he will be a point guard, not point forward, point guard. Is that the right move?
As far as defending the point guard, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think he will be the ball-dominant player on the offense, and I think what they're going to try to do is put a couple shooting guards around him, people that can knock down the shots on the back end. But I do like the fact that Brett Brown said he's going to be the point guard.
All right, we're going to go to you. Over under 75 yards for Aguilar this week. What do you think, Josh?
Believe it or not, I think he'll get over 75 yards. I mentioned to you during the break that Aguilar is struggling, obviously, as we all know, but yesterday he was the last practice, according to John Clark of CSN, he was the last Eagle off the field, catching balls off of the jugs machine, and he was also receiving help and pep talk from Brian Dawkins. So I think this is the week where he can finally break through.
All right, I like it. Let's go back to you, Kevin. Another Sixers question, since we haven't talked on this show. Nerlens Noel went down to the 87ers for a little bit, kind of practiced with them. He's still recovering from the knee surgery he had. What's his timetable, though? What do you think his timetable for how long he's going to be here in terms of will he be traded? It looks like he is going to be traded. I guess it's more, will he have to play enough in order for teams to actually get a warranted amount of in return for him, I guess?
I think he will be gone by the trade deadline. I think he is going to be the odd man out. But as far as the timetable on how long until we see him go, it's kind of up to the other teams. I think it might take a couple games and a good stretch for them to see that he's healthy before we see him leave, though.
And Dana, last one. Which rookie, considering there's a lot of rookies in Philadelphia sports, has the most promising future?
I'm going to go with Carson Wentz, definitely. He has been the most composed rookie quarterback that Philadelphia probably has ever seen, or in a long time at least. I think we trust him. I think the Philadelphia fans trust him, and I think he's going to have a really, really bright future here with years to come. So.
You know who I trust? The process. It's Joel Embiid, man. He has the future of the 76ers, as well as Ben Simmons. But I think we've seen enough so far this season, healthy regardless. He's maybe the guy. That's my eyes. But Carson Wentz, we all pray in Philadelphia that's going to be the way. But that's going to do us for Sports Talk Philadelphia this week. I want to thank all my guests, Kyle McIntosh for coming on to talk some Eagles, Josh Abrams for staying on to talk everything, and Dana Pecora, as well as Kevin Cook to come on to talk Flyers. Really appreciate it. You can catch all of this on LaSalle TV, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Please check us out. Really appreciate it. This is our second to last show. We have Christmas show next week. So please tune in, and that's going to do it for us here.